Good afternoon, everyone, if you're joining us from Europe, or good morning, good evening, if you're joining us from further afield. This is a Energy Institute Technical and Innovation Team webinar focusing on SafetyOn and its data. So we'll get started pretty soon, just that's letting some of the participants make it through the virtual doors. We've got two great speakers lined up for you. And yeah, so my name's Mariana Carvalho, and I am a technical manager at the EI. I'm actually look after offshore wind, but I'm stepping in today as my counterpart in onshore wind couldn't join us. So should there be any difficult questions, I shall deflect with no shame. And leave you also with some email addresses and links that you can contact people. But anything that you have that we can't answer you today, then be sure to get in touch, and we'll be very happy to respond that way as well. So I will take you through a little bit about the Energy Institute and the Technical and Innovation Team's work program, but we'll try to be quick about that and swiftly move you onto the main thing of today, which is Anna and Chris's presentation on SafetyOn's incident data, how it's all collected, the key trends from it, and how that then drives SafetyOn's work program. And then we'll close with some questions and answers. Regarding that, so all of the participants are muted for the duration of the webinar, so please make sure that you use the Q&A feature of Zoom to post your questions. You feel free to post any question at any time. Don't need to wait for the Q&A at the end, but please don't use the chat function, use Q&A, as that's where I'll be looking. So I'll pop that open when we come to it and take the questions from there. So if you don't put it there, I won't see it at the right time. Okay, so if you could go to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this is part of the Technical and Innovation webinar series. It's the third in that series, and we've got one more coming up, I think in October, on the Green Guide guidance, and that's about service stations and greening service station service. So it's quite interesting, very different from this, but feel free to join and share with colleagues. And anything in the past that you see sort of there grayed out that you're also interested in, or think that colleagues might be interested in, it's all been recorded, so it's available to watch either on YouTube or through Toolbox. So feel free to share those links as well and revisit them yourselves if you're interested. And yeah, next one, please. I think I've mentioned about the Q&A and that, yeah, apart from us presenters, most of the participants will be muted. So next one, please. Okay, so the Energy Institute is the chartered professional membership body for people who work across the energy industry. It's a non-for-profit organization bringing together kind of experts from across all energy disciplines. And as part of that, there is the technical and innovation team that delivers, and so if you flick to the next slide, that delivers good practice guidance, research reports, and other resources in support of industry. We have hundreds of back catalogue publications and other resources. There's usually over 30 projects that get started every year. So whatever area that you are working in, be it human factors, asset integrity, or specifically, say, aviation, environmental management, process safety, power generation, you can find something, I'm sure, of relevance to your particular field. So do visit that website to see that back catalogue. And if you have any questions outside of this webinar about sort of unrelated topics, feel free to drop us a note, and there will be someone in the technical team very happy to help you find what you need. Okay, next one, please. Cool. So, okay. So on the agenda today, we have Annette Fortuna. She is Deputy Head of Health and Safety at Enercon, where I believe she has worked on for over 9 years. And throughout that time has been a safety devotee. And she is also a data lead for SafetyOn. And it is in both of those capacities that she joins us today. And then following Anna, we'll have Chris Forsett, who is a health and safety specialist for Vattenfall, and again, a long-standing career health and safety devotee since he left the RAF, I believe, as if my LinkedIn investigations prove true. So without further ado, we'll get to the important part of the session. Over to you, Anna.
Thanks, Mariana. Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first SafetyOn data webinar. I'm pleased that I've been invited to present on such an important topic and what the key driver is behind the work that SafetyOn does. So what I plan on doing is, over my time with you this afternoon, I'd like to take you through the following. So I'd like to go through a brief introduction to SafetyOn for those that might not know the organisation and what it does. We're going to have a look into what the importance of the health and safety incident data. We're going to look at the SafetyOn data collection method and what the key trends are. So if we move on to the next slide, we can have a look at what is SafetyOn. So SafetyOn is the health and safety organisation for the onshore wind sector. They provide leadership in health and safety for the onshore wind industry and ensure that there's transparency for the industry's health and safety performance, as well as assisting industry stakeholders to see that the key emerging risks are mitigated through cooperation and shared learning. So SafetyOn works to provide health and safety leadership across the onshore wind sector. It seeks participation of companies from across the onshore wind sector, and it partners with relevant trade organisations, consultancies, and other companies. It monitors and gathers data on the health and safety performance of the sector, and it makes use of and ensures effective communication of new and existing good practice and experience from both the UK and internationally. SafetyOn seeks to share knowledge and good practice with its associated sectors. So this includes offshore wind, conventional generation, and power networks. And that's within the UK and out with the UK as appropriate. SafetyOn's run in partnership with the Energy Institute, who provide the secretariat and supports the work of SafetyOn. SafetyOn's established in 2019, and SafetyOn brings together 82 member companies and other industry stakeholders in order to tackle health and safety issues in the onshore wind industry, with an approach that's also welcomed by the health and safety executive. It's okay, Amy, you can move on now to the next slide. So, what's SafetyOn's purpose? SafetyOn's purpose is to focus on the real issues, such as issues like working under suspended loads. And SafetyOn do this by consulting with its members and agreeing on work streams that add value to the health, safety, engineering, and asset management. SafetyOn recognises that the onshore wind industry plays a critical role and will continue to play a critical role in that drive towards a net zero. It has an inclusive team that's made up of owners, operators, developers, manufacturers, and key suppliers within its membership. If we go on to the next slide, you will see that there are 4 main areas on which SafetyOn focuses on. The first being incident data reporting. It focuses on safe by design workshops, good practice guidelines, and learning from shared incidents. So what I'm going to discuss with you today is we're going to delve further into the incident data reporting. So if we go on to the next slide. So what's the importance of health and safety incident data? Monitoring and gathering data on the health and safety performance of the UK onshore wind sector is part of what we do as an organisation. This data is then used to inform our evidence-based work programme, and it ensures that there's transparency across the membership and with its stakeholders. So Tier 1 members, and Tier 1 members include owners and operators with a minimum of 200 megawatt installed capacity in the UK. Tier 1 members include operation and maintenance service providers and contractors with a minimum, again, of a 200 megawatt portfolio, and OEMs with a minimum of 200 megawatts delivered and operational capacity. So all of these Tier 1 members provide the health and safety incident data for all their onshore wind farms across the UK. And that is throughout the life cycle of that wind farm. They submit this data in a standardized template, and then the companies follow the SafetyOn guidelines for that data submission. That data is then analysed to monitor the health and safety performance, any trends, and identify the risks. Any areas of higher risk that are identified within the incident data form the evidence base for the selection of the SafetyOn work program. So if we move on to the next slide. How do we collect the data? So SafetyOn member companies will submit incident data on a quarterly basis. This data is then anonymised for analysis by the Energy Institute and published for a wider review and scrutiny. Throughout the year, quarterly updates are issued to both the SafetyOn Leadership Board and the Technical Advisory Committee, also known as the TAC. And the key risk areas are identified, and then they're used to inform the SafetyOn work programme. Deep dive data meetings are held quarterly, which draw on the expertise within member companies to scrutinise the performance of the industry and to identify those risk areas that need particular focus and intent and attention. And it's these deep dive meetings that both Chris and I attend as the SafetyOn data leads. An annual data report review meeting is then held to assess the whole process and implement any improvements. And each year, the template used for data collection will be reviewed, streamlined, and enhanced in line with any industry feedback, and with the purpose of continually improving that process. The SafetyOn incident data report includes information submitted by Tier 1 members. Tier 2 members don't submit incident data. And the reason for this is that we want to avoid any duplication of the incidents that are recorded. To date, SafetyOn has published 3 incident data reports, which are freely available from the SafetyOn website. If you access the SafetyOn website, you'll also find a Power BI dashboard available on the website, and that allows you as viewers to interrogate the incident data by site type, incident area, actual consequences, work processes, body part injured, and so on. And that dashboard is updated each year in line with the incident data report. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that dashboard later on. So this slide here shows the key statistics over the past 3 years, with the main focus on 2022. The annual 2022 incident data report, which was published in June this year, recorded that there were over 1 million worked hours, with a total of 523 incidents. What you'll see is that this is a decrease in the number of reported incidents if we compare it to the previous years, with a total of 593 incidents reported in 2021 and 532 incidents reported in 2020. In 2022, we also saw an increase in the number of worked hours compared with the previous years. However, despite there being an overall increase in incidents against an overall decrease, in incidents against an increase in worked hours, in 2022, unfortunately, a fatal incident occurred on a wind farm site. Our thoughts are obviously with the family, colleagues, and friends of that individual involved. And it's tragedies like this that must and will reinforce our industry's determination to keep our workforce safe. If we move on to the next slide. Here you can see a screenshot of SafetyOn's incident data dashboard, or the Power BI, as I previously mentioned. So if you were to go onto the website and on this incident data dashboard, click on Select All, this is what you would see. And what you can see is that SafetyOn started collating its data in 2020. And that this is showing the data from 2020 to the end of 2022. As you can see, we have recorded a total of 1,648 incidents. 28 of these incidents resulted in emergency response or medical evacuation. And 9 of those 28 incidents occurred in 2022. 5 of those incidents occurred on the turbine itself, and 5 of those incidents required emergency response or medical evacuation due to the outbreak of a fire. And you can further break that down later on, which we'll look at. You can see on here that 280 incidents were reported as high potential. So high potential incidents are defined by SafetyOn as incidents or near misses that had the potential to cause a fatality or a life-changing injury. Categorization as a high potential incident should be based on a credible scenario, not based on a worst case scenario. So a good example for this would be, for example, if we had a team that were winching up their equipment into the nacelle of a turbine. If an object weighing around 1 kilo fell from the load whilst it was at height to the ground, and by chance it did not hit anyone, then this would be recorded as a high potential incident, because there is a likely possibility there that persons could have been present in that area. Unless the load fell within a restricted area, so an area where, due to regulations or barriers, persons are not allowed to be in. So there's no potential of it impacting with persons. The potential of incidents will only be considered from near hit or near miss type incidents to higher type incidents. In 2022, 113, so 21% of incidents were reported as high potential incidents. And that was an increase of 6.4% based on the 2021 figures. And of those 113 high potential incidents, 69% of those occurred on the turbine, with only 14% on the wind farm, 14% in the substation, and 3% of them were in a public space. And 52% of the high potential incidents in 2022 were recorded as near hits or near misses. It's also important to note that 37 of those high potential incidents in 2022 were in regard to a fallen object, which is a 4% increase to what was recorded in 2021. And then whilst we're on the topic of fallen and dropped objects, you'll see that SafetyOn recorded 153 fallen and dropped object incidents between 2020 and 2022. On this dashboard, you can see that it highlights what the top 10 work processes were where incidents have occurred, with the most incidents recorded during routine maintenance. As part of the deep dives, we're looking into this work process in more depth and determining whether we need to further break down this work process for the 2024 data collection in order to try and help us gain a better understanding as to what the tasks are that have been completed within the routine maintenance where we're seeing the highest level of incidents occur. You'll see as well within the top 10 work process that access and egress comes in as the second highest work process where incidents are occurring, followed by working with the electrical systems. In regards to incident area, you can see that the turbine is where most of the incidents occur, followed by the wind farm. And when we talk about the wind farm, that includes the car park, any office or office surroundings, any road and tracks. This is the turbine assembly, deliveries, civil works. But what are the actual consequences? So over half of the incidents that were reported between 2020 and 2022 were recorded as a near hit or a near miss. And you can see the number of incidents and percentage of each actual consequence over the last 3 years with this dashboard. However, in relation to those near hit and those near miss incidents that we are recording, it shows just how important that they are within the data, because we can see those as free learnings. We can see those as a chance for us to improve before harm occurs. If we look at body parts injured, you can see that a total of 378 incidents caused a direct injury to a person, and that the most frequent body part injured was the hand, followed by the back and then the leg. If we move on to the next slide, this shows how we can further interrogate into Power BI. So here, if we decide, for example, to delve into work processes, what this slide here shows us is all of the work processes where we're seeing incidents occur, not just the top 10 that are shown on that front page. Within this, we can further break down that information so that we can understand within which work processes the actual consequences are occurring, such as restricted work days. And then we can further break down that information into years. And if we move on to the next slide, sorry, the slide after that, I think it's a duplicate. If we move on to this slide, we can say that we can do the same but for the body parts injured. So again, we can use the Power BI to interrogate that data, to understand within which work processes these injuries to body parts are occurring. And within this graph, what you can clearly see that between 2020 and 2022, that hand injuries are by far the most frequently injured body part. I mean, they're almost double the back injuries, which are the next ones down. And in fact, it was because of the hand injuries being identified as the most frequently injured body part within the collection of the onshore wind industry's data over 2020 and 2021, that SafetyOn decided that there was a need to create a hand injury video campaign. However, we'll cover how these publications are driven by the health and safety data later on in the webinar and what benefits those publications have. And then if we just move on to the last slide, what you can see is this shows us the breakdown of the emergency response or medical evacuations required into incidents by year. It also shows us the number of high potential incidents by year, which, as you can see, appears to have increased over the years. It also breaks down the incidents into years and quarters, so we can get a better picture as to whether the number of incidents occurring throughout the year are relatively similar. Personally, I think Power BI is a brilliant tool to use. It's user-friendly once you get your head around it, and it helps provide an easy understanding into the breakdown of all the incidents. And what you can do is you can use this to analyze your own incidents within your own company against the industry's data as a whole. I mean, personally, if you've got some time, I'd suggest you go onto SafetyOn website and spend some time having a look at Power BI. And you can also get access, as we mentioned previously, to those incident data reports, as well as a number of other publications, including the hand injury video campaign that we'll discuss a little bit more later. And I say we, and it's at this point where I'm going to hand over to Chris Forster. So, as Mariana said earlier, Chris is the Senior Health and Safety Specialist for onshore wind in the UK for Vattenfall, and also my fellow SafetyOn data lead. So he's going to continue to discuss that link between SafetyOn incident data and the work programme.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, everyone. So the next part of the webinar, as Anna's mentioned, I'll provide you with an overview of the SafetyOn work programme and the link between the incident data and the work that SafetyOn is undertaken. So as Anna already mentioned, incident data is the key driver for the SafetyOn work programmes. The gathering and sharing of incident data has become an important asset that guides SafetyOn health and safety work streams. This in turn helping to develop some industry-wide standards and guidance. So developing standards and protocols for incident data and reporting for SafetyOn in its early beginnings, so it started as soon as the organisation picked up, enabled the process of analysing the industry-wide incidents, which guides the onshore wind health and safety work streams. So SafetyOn members collecting and submitting incident data within onshore wind operations is a unified format, has enabled us to produce a cohesive safety database, and in turn, as you'll see, has enabled SafetyOn to focus its work streams on the key areas in order to maximise the impact that it has. So, since SafetyOn was established back in 2019, the organisation has published 12, back to the previous slide, please. Thanks. It has published 12 health and safety guidance documents, which have included guidance regarding site operations, construction and return to the office environment during COVID-19. which, as most of the onshore wind farms were classed as critical assets in the UK, these obviously had to stay running during COVID. And as Anna's mentioned, our first ever video campaign was released. So the 4 videos were released over the past year in stages and focused on mitigating hand injuries. Another example was a joint industry good practice guidance on contractor engagement, behavioural safety in onshore civils. And this was produced in collaboration with G+, which was the global offshore wind health and safety organisation. The publications have been driven by the health and safety incident data. So, for example, data from SafetyOn Tier 1 member companies identified that hand injuries are the most frequent body part injured, as Anna's previously mentioned. So, to further analyse incidents and examine ways to mitigate hand injuries, SafetyOn developed a work stream on hand injuries as part of the work programme. And the objective of the group, which was the overall outcome, was to develop a video campaign to raise awareness of hand injuries and mitigate these incidents as far as possible. All 4 videos are available, as well as all of the SafetyOn guidance. It's all freely available on the SafetyOn website. And although SafetyOn is focused primarily on onshore wind in the UK, there has been several requests from member organisations for the video campaign to be translated for use on the continent throughout wider parts of the member organisations. And this project is currently underway. So, as mentioned previously as well, the recent guidance on contractor engagement and behavioural safety in onshore civils was another project kicked off from the incident data. And from incident data and industry experience, SafetyOn and the global offshore wind organisation, G+, identified onshore civils as a key risk area, with particular concerns about ensuring that contractors are fully engaged in health and safety, and consequently safe behaviours on site. So SafetyOn and G+, therefore established a working group drawn from the members to steer the development with industry input to develop good practice guidance in this area. And the current work programmes, as you can see from the slide, we have an extensive work programme underway and planned. And where possible, during these work programmes, we encourage involvement from all levels of the industry. So with the work programmes, it's not just the Tier 1 members of SafetyOn that are involved. Tier 2 members also get involved with specifically the safety by design workshops. And it's not limited to solely safety professionals either. It is encouraged that all levels of the organisation take part, be that technicians, service leads, site managers, as well as the contractors, so statutory inspection companies and lifting organisations also get involved. So looking at some of these work streams, ice fall and ice throw, it's a fairly new work stream that's been undertaken by SafetyOn, and it's going to be looking at the various systems and procedures that are utilised throughout the industry to mitigate the risk of ice fall and ice throw. As there are many different platforms, many different turbine types, the systems that are employed on the site are far ranging. It's looking at some best practice around them. Chain hoists. So numerous safe controls in place for chain hoists. Management of lifting. So the proposal for this work stream is to develop a good practice guidance for the management of lifting operations within the onshore wind industry. Electrical safety, which is going to focus on the hierarchy of control and competence specifically regarding high voltage. So this came out of or was followed on from a publication of the SafetyOn research report, which was an investigation into the root cause of fires in megawatt scale wind turbines. SafetyOn held a workshop with the health and safety executive and recognised that there are still concerns with HV electrical systems. So the work stream is addressing the risk associated with position of HV equipment. So where the HV equipment is located within the platform, controlling access to HV equipment, competence levels of personnel who have access to the HV equipment, and also non-electrical work in the vicinity of high voltage equipment. Organisational factors. So this was formed out of the human factors work stream, and it is a core part of the SafetyOn work programmes, because the workforce is the heartbeat of the industry. Without them, it won't continue. Welfare. So the requirements throughout the full life cycle of a wind farm. And as I can imagine and understand, onshore wind farms do range over a vast distance. So the welfare requirements can be challenging at times. Body parts injured and injury trends. So as you'd have gathered from Anna's part of the presentation, it's an ongoing work stream for the data collection. That's where most of our other work streams are formed from. And life extension. So due to the aging fleet of onshore wind in the UK, it's a common topic amongst all members. So the aim of the work stream is to share knowledge on a non-competitive level of the issues affecting personal and public safety when it comes to life extension of wind assets. Go to the next slide, please. So Anna previously touched on the high potential incidents. So if you look at the 2022 incident data, it tells us that 113 incidents were reported as high potential in 22, which is an increase of 6.4% compared to the 2021 figures. 29 were reported under work processes of routine maintenance. So that's planned maintenance of the turbine, including regular inspections and servicing. 17 occurred during electrical work with electrical systems, electrical equipment, machinery and installations, and 14 were recorded under lifting operations. So this includes lifting or lowering of a load, including a person or people. 37 high potential incidents were reported as having involved a fallen object, which is an increase of 4% compared to the previous year. And 7 involved a dropped object. And dropped objects, we are classifying them as incidents that involve an object being dropped, such as technician drops a drill. And fallen object incidents are examples of formed ice structures falling from the turbine blades. During the first quarter of 22, 16% of the high potential incidents involving a fallen object reported as ice throw from the turbine. So it is a key topic that's being looked at. And SafetyOn is aware of the risk of these areas and is in the process of developing industry good practice guidance in the following areas. So coordinating crane lifting activities at site and electrical safety. This is looking at the minimum safety requirements for access of non-electrical personnel. And furthermore, as briefly mentioned, previous this year, SafetyOn instigated 2 Safe by Design workshops, work streams to review key identified risks. The first will examine the design of chain hoist and ancillary equipment. It's looking at lift plans, permits, controls, and training and competency issues. And the second will examine the control measures in place to prevent the risk from ice fall and ice throw within wind turbine generators. as touched on previously, the ice throw and the ice fall issue it's a common issue throughout the industry, but every turbine has different characteristics that affect this. Then next slide, please. So again, looking at the latest published report on the 2022 stats, it tells us that a total of 16 lost working day incidents were reported in 22. So